Three, two, one. My name is Dan Coyne. I work with the, starting there. My name is Dan Coyne. I'm here with Bill Ehmann. We're here to do an interview. We are at the McCandless North Allegheny Heritage Center. Today is March 22nd, 2022. The purpose of this interview is to acquire some history about the International Order of the Odd Fellows and its existence in the North Hills, and also especially its existence in the Hampton Lodge. We'll also get some, hopefully some insights from Mr. Ehmann here today about growing up in McCandless in the second half of the 20th century. I've only recently met Bill. He's a member of the, long-time member of the International Order of the Odd Fellows in Hampton. And that's how we know each other. And I need to ask you, Bill, do you give us your consent to be videotaped and interviewed today?
Sure.
All right, thank you. All right, so let's start out with the basics. Tell us who you are, where you were born.
I was
things
born in
like that.
1935. My dad was Walter L. Ehmann. My mother was Mary Oliphant. We had a good life living on a chicken farm. Of course, whenever we had a banquet at the lodge, everybody says, well, we can't have chicken at the banquet. So, but we had chicken sometimes, but it was a good life. I knew everybody in the township at that time because there wasn't many people there.
Mm-hmm.
There was only, when I graduated from Hampton School, there was probably only 1,300 people living in the township. Now there's somewhere in the neighborhood of 30,000.
And that was 1953? The year
53, correct. Everybody knew everybody. The reason why I joined Hampton Lodge is everybody I knew that was older than me was a member. So I joined Hampton Lodge and we had a good time.
Now, how long have you been a member of the Lodge?
67 years.
67 years? Very good.
Yep.
And what induced you to become a member?
Well, just everybody I knew that was older than me that I worked with was a member.
Very
Lived
good.
in the township.
Okay, tell us a little bit about the Lodge. Most people don't really know much about the Odd Fellows. So tell us a little bit about what you know about the history of the Odd Fellows, and then your
Well, they
experience.
started in England in the 1700s, and they come over here and started in Baltimore, Maryland, and it just grew, and it grew worldwide. And we're not growing so much in the United States, but in Cuba and a few other places, they're growing.
Mm-hmm. What kind of place is it? What's the purpose of the Odd Fellows?
We do work for the community. We donate money to charities. Hampton Lodge has donated since October when we put new officers in. We've donated over $2,100 to local charities. If we have a member that's down and can't pay electric bill or light bill or any kind of utilities, we'll pay them to keep them going. In fact, we had a member just 5 years ago who has since died, but he didn't have the money to pay his electric bill and his water bill, and we paid it for 5 or 6 months, I guess it was.
Mm-hmm.
And then he went into a home.
Okay.
And since then he died. In fact, just a year ago our Grand Master died, and he died a week after our Grand Master. And we lost 4 members in a year. So with the amount of people that's joining lodges, not only the Odd Fellows, but any fraternal organization you can think of, losing 4 members is a lot in a year's time.
Right. Yeah. And and you kind of give us a sense of its benevolence, of a benevolent society to take care of folks. Can you tell us a little bit about what the sort of the original purpose of the lodge was? You know, from your understanding of the history, you know, back when it came out here, what that would have been in the 19th century, I would imagine, right?
1890s when Hampton Lodge started.
Okay.
And what it was is to help widows, orphans. We have scholarships. We had sick benefits, although since we started paying some utility bills for any member that's dying, we don't pay sick benefits anymore. But we pay death benefits for the member's spouse.
Well, in the 1890s, it started out with farmers, right? I mean, everybody was a farmer.
Right,
there,
correct.
And so it was this benevolent society sort of to create some sort of a community, right, in the area.
Yeah, correct. And just to help the people out that, of course, back then everybody knew everybody.
Yeah.
They knew their business whether they needed to or not.
Right.
But, you know, they knew people that was having a problem. And even when some people that wasn't members, we've helped out. Like the one had a fire, and we collected $5,000 to help rebuild the house.
Okay. And what do you remember when that was?
Good question. Boy, I'm not sure when that was, but that's probably been 15 to 20 years ago.
Okay, very good. And then now, taking it back again to sort of the original idea. Well, what the Odd Fellows? What about the name, the Odd Fellows? Where does that come from, and what do you know about that?
Well, that piece of paper that I give you,
Yeah, sure.
will have a little in there why it's called the Odd Fellows. But way back when, they was helping people that wasn't members. They'd go in when they was sick, sit with them, help them, and they got the name Odd Fellows. Of course, there's two reasons why it's the Odd Fellows. One is they had different professions, where most lodges are all one. Like the SOIs, the Sons of Italy.
Okay.
Knights of Columbus is all Catholic. Masons is all Masons.
Yeah.
Well, today it's not that way.
Sure.
So that's how they became the Odd Fellows, because they was blacksmiths, roofers, you name it, they did it, and they was got all together, and because they couldn't join the other lodges because they wasn't one part of the craft or profession that was in that lodge.
Right.
So they called themselves the Odd Fellows, and it just grew with going in and helping people that wasn't members.
Very good.
And people that was sick, and everybody says, them oddballs are going in there, they're gonna get sick.
Ah, there you go. All right.
So that's how things come around.
I had a few meetings. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you ever hear of Cass, West Virginia?
Is it, no, I haven't.
It was Cass Railroad. And
Yeah.
what it was, from the 1800s into about 1960, 62 maybe, it was a lumber company.
Okay.
And the only way you could get to Cass was by railroad. No road up there. Of course, there is now, because they run scenic trains there, steam engines,
Okay.
and they're always crowded.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Everybody
they
listen
had
to
two
each
lodges there, an Odd Fellows Lodge and a Mason's Lodge.
other. Ah,
And they all belonged, both of them.
is that right?
And whenever they had a picnic, everybody was there.
Is that right? All right.
Yep.
Sounds good. All right. So, and also the Odd Fellows worked with orphans as well. It was one of their.
Correct, orphans, and we have a home in Grove City, and they have a home down near Philadelphia, and we used to have a home in Pittsburgh, which is now the Rooney School, was where our home was at, and they had a home in Sunbury, Pennsylvania. In fact, the property is still there, or it was the last time I was down there. I haven't been down there for a few years, but the buildings are just crumbling away to nothing. So I don't know if anybody bought the property since then or not.
Okay.
But yeah, we had a number of homes in the state. In fact, you was looking at that book
Yes.
that had the homes in it.
Yeah, one up in Meadville, right?
Yeah. Well, that home and the property's still there, but I don't know what they're gonna do with it. Nobody's been in it for a number of years.
Is that right? Yeah. Looks like a beautiful, beautiful building.
Yeah, they had a lot of beautiful buildings throughout the country
Yeah.
for homes.
So, I'm sure the Odd Fellows had some fun. What's the most fun you've ever had as an Odd Fellow?
Being the marshal for the district deputy grand master, because first time I was a marshal, The Grand Lodge was in our lodge down in Allison Park, and they was having a district meeting.
Uh-huh.
And the Grand Master told me, listen, he says, you're going to be the marshal for the first time. There's 3 things you got to do. Okay. First, you make sure all the officers get installed with dispatch. You make sure the paperwork's all done. And third, you harass the district deputy and keep him in line. So I've been practicing that for 6 district deputies.
Gotten good at it, huh? Very good. All right. What else should people know about the Oddfellows and your
Well, we used to have 1,200 lodges in the state of Pennsylvania,
Mm-hmm.
but unfortunately, we're like every other fraternal organization. We're down below 100 lodges now,
Mm-hmm.
and every time you talk to somebody that belongs to a fraternal organization, they're either consolidating or they're just going out of business, period.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And when we had a camp up Mercer County for a while, and we'd go down around and visit antique shops and museums, and you could see licenses and for different fraternal organizations. They'd be in the antique shop because they went out of business and
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
nobody wanted it.
Yeah.
So they sold a charger or give it away to somebody and
Right. Yeah.
went on their way.
Well, it's unfortunate.
Well, I had a lady at a Meals on Wheels tell me one time, she says, I don't know what we're going to do if lodges like yours ever go out of business. Because she says, you're the ones that keeps this outfit supplied with money to keep us going.
Mm. So you folks help out Meals with Wheels?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we have a number of Meals on Wheels, North Hills Community Outreach, the home up at Grove City. We send them money every quarter.
Okay.
Well, there's all kinds. Anybody we hear of that needs some help.
How do you raise your money?
Well, dues.
Dues?
And we have money that we've been able to save every year. We have invested, and we
Okay.
get dividends off of that, and that's what we use.
Okay. All right.
It costs $30 to join and $16 a quarter for your dues,
Okay. And that helps. And that helps other people.
right? And we pay Grand Lodge and Sovereign Grand Lodge assessments twice a year, so money comes off the dues for that. And 2 years ago we had to up our dues $1 a quarter because we was paying out more in assessments
Oh.
to Sovereign Grand Lodge, and the aged home than we was getting in dues. So I told him, hey, since I'm the financial secretary, that's not going to last.
Right. Yeah.
So we upped our dues a quarter, or $1 every quarter.
Mm-hmm. Well, so you have to do that. A lot of traveling involved with.
Used to be.
Used to be, you say. Okay.
Yeah, we used to have a lot of local lodges that we travel around to and visit. And the district deputy generally had 7 or 8 lodges that they installed the officers in every October.
Mm-hmm.
So we'd travel around whenever the officers got installed and go to the meeting. And after meeting, you'd always have a lunch and harass one another and tell jokes and
Yeah.
have a few laughs. And
Very good.
it's not a drinking organization.
No.
Nope.
So, do you have any particular memories about a trip that was interesting or unique?
Well, I can remember back in the 50s, about 57, I guess it was, a crew from Canada brought their band and they put on the initiatory, the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd degrees down the hotel in Pittsburgh, and there was 1,000 members there.
No.
And the band, they played everything.
Oh yeah.
You name it, they could play it.
Is that right? Yeah.
Yep, and we was there from what? Well, we had a lunch, and we was there all afternoon doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a great time to see so many members.
Oh, sounds fantastic. Yeah.
But unfortunately today, you have a tough time getting thousand members together. April 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, I believe it is, down in Washington, PA, they're having the Mid-Atlantic Conclave.
Oh, okay.
That's New York, New Jersey, Delaware, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Virginia, West Virginia, and the District of Columbia.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And they have a different state in those 8 states every year. And this year is Pennsylvania's year.
Okay.
But they'll get quite a few members down there. But unfortunately, some of our members are getting to the age where they can't travel around anymore.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And unfortunately, we have more of them than we have the ones that's in their 20s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well,
But everybody I talk to that belongs to a fraternal organization, they all got the same problem.
yeah.
Look at the Moose down in Saxonburg Boulevard.
Okay.
They closed it down.
Is that right?
Yeah.
That's too bad.
I talked to a guy down there that run the place. He says, I got the cheapest booze in town, the best food in town, and I can't get them in the door.
It's unfortunate.
Yep.
Oh, any other things that we should know about the order?
Hey, we're always looking for members. If you're 16 or over, we'll be happy to talk to you.
Okay. All right. Well, you said you grew up on Mount Royal Boulevard.
Correct, on the chicken farm.
Chicken farm.
100,000 chickens.
Born in 1935, you said?
Correct.
Okay. And just give us a little, some sort of a idea of what that would have looked like and what that would have felt like.
Well, at the time, there wasn't as many people living in the township. There wasn't as many houses on Mount Royal, and that end of Mount Royal Boulevard was still dirt.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure when they paved it, 40 or 41 maybe, but don't quote me on that because I'm not sure about that. But the house across the road from us was also a chicken farm.
Okay.
But the reason why they was a chicken farm is they needed the mash to make moonshine.
Ah, okay. All right.
And about 45 or 46, I think it was, is whenever they raided the place and shut them down, needless to say.
Oh, okay. All right. You remember that day much at all?
I was out in the garden, I was maybe 10 years old, but
Okay. Yeah.
my uncle says, I can't understand why these guys are walking up and down Mount Royal, the bus doesn't show up for another half hour or so. But they wasn't worried about the bus.
They were there for something else.
Right.
Shut down the operation.
And we had a area that was where wealthy people lived. It's called Oak Hill Farms.
Okay.
And they was all owned a company or run a company or something of the sort. Lawyer, you know. But they was just like everybody else. They come down to the farm and got eggs and vegetables, and they didn't dress better than anybody else. Like the one guy says, I just happened to be in the right place at the right time and got the right job.
Is that right? Now,
Yep.
was it your impression these people lived out this way and commuted in, or
No, they lived out in Oak Hill Farms and went to Pittsburgh every day.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I don't know if you know about the place down in Millville. Well, I can't think of the name of it right offhand, but they was another place like Oak Hill Farms.
Okay.
But what most of them did was they walk down off the hill and walk to Millville and got the streetcar and went to town.
Okay. Very good. Yeah.
So there was a few places around like that.
All right.
Fox Chapel, the original Fox Chapel, of course, they was only about a mile off of Route 28. So if they had a vehicle, it wasn't too tough for them to get to town.
Okay.
You know. But the original Fox Chapel was North and South Drive.
Okay.
Did you ever hear the preacher lady?
I have not.
You didn't know the preacher lady?
Oh, you had to tell me.
Catherine Coleman?
No, please tell
She
me.
lived on Fox Chapel Road.
Oh, wonderful. Let me hear
And
that.
she was a character, let me tell you.
Okay.
I knew her pretty well because I worked Fox Chapel most of the time.
All right. Now, what she did to earn the name of the preacher lady?
That's what she was. She was a preacher.
Okay. All right.
And she was a character.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what was she like?
Oh, she was funny. She would come out to the farm and she'd have her slacks on and work shoes and She'd say, "What are we doing today?"
Uh-huh.
Hey, anything you want to do.
Okay.
We'd see her once in a while, once a month or so.
Okay. So you folks had a chicken farm out of Mount Royal.
Correct.
And I know that there was a big farmer out this way, Guyton, right? Was there a Guyton out here, or were there
There was a
farms
logger and what's the ones on Middle Road? Well, there was Clark's.
Mm-hmm.
Was a farm, chicken farm like ours. Just trying to think of who else was over there. But there was a lot of farms out in this part of the world
Sure.
back then. Unfortunately, they just closed up one by one.
Yeah.
Over in Duncan Avenue, where I was telling you about the insulators over the hill.
Yes, sir.
That was all farms and chicken farms when I was a kid.
Okay. Yeah. I owned a home over that way. So.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. So.
Okay. Well, you know where the church is there.
Yes.
They started out in our hall, that church, but across from the church on Duncan Avenue,
Yes.
that was used to be a chicken farm.
Okay. All right. And was there a farm stand in that area, right where that church is, or where the pool is today? Is it?
Yeah, most of the time they had a stand out there.
Okay.
In fact,
And that's what I thought was Guyton's, but I don't know.
well, I'm not sure their name right off. It might have been.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not sure because I'm not sure when they closed up that farm, when they shut it down. And I wasn't too old.
Yeah, I know 47 is when they kind of platted all that land for neighborhoods. So
Yeah.
we have a map back there about that.
Well, and Ross Park Mall used to be a fruit farm.
Okay, is that right?
And down there where the entrance is, the northern entrance, that's where their stand was at. Yeah, I can remember that. I was about 30, I guess, when they quit doing that.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Very good.
One day I was on Knight Road in my company truck, and it was the winter time, and a guy that I knew from Unified Lodge was the bus driver, and he pulled up alongside of me. He opened the door, so I cranked down the window, and he says, "Hey, people on a bus want to know, is that air conditioned in the winter time?" I told him, "Yeah, that's the only time is in the winter time."
Yeah, what they used to call it 62. Go drive 62 windows down.
Right.
So you graduated from Hampton High School, 53.
Correct.
What was it like going to Hampton High School in the early 50s, late 40s?
Hey, there wasn't that many of us in the school, so we all got along because we all knew one another. All the parents did things with the kids at school. If they owned a business, the parents went there and bought what they needed or got what they needed, and you just patronized all the businesses in the township.
Okay.
We only had one grocery store, that was Sybert's.
Okay, all right.
That's where McDonald's is at now, Wildwood Road and Route 8.
Okay, all right.
Across the road from them was Northern Seed Company. They sold seed and lawnmowers, things of the sort. Down in Craighead and Route 8 was Heine Cross's tractor building. He sold tractors. And over on Harts Run Road and Saxonburg Boulevard was, can't think of his name right offhand, but he sold tractors over there too.
Okay, all right. Good. I think so as a student, as a young person, in that period of time, you said you didn't have a lot of leisure time growing up on chicken farms, lots of stuff to do. But what type of stuff did you do when you did have a little bit of time, maybe to do something?
Rode my bicycle in North Park, and we went roller skating up at Twin Willis.
Oh, tell us about that.
Oh, there was usually 60 or 70 of us up there, and we all knew one another because either played basketball together, like Hampton and Mars played basketball.
Okay.
Or you played football, or you ice skated in the winter, roller skated in the summer. We used to have picnics together. There was nobody wanting to fight somebody else
Ah.
over something. You didn't have to lock your doors.
Very good. And was North Park a big part of your?
Yeah, we used to go to North Park and ride bicycles.
Very good. All right.
Yep. And you'd see people there that come out from the city and come out to North Park to see what it looked like. And
Yeah.
down on Harts Run Road, there was cabins up on the hill.
Okay.
And Howard Bischoff, who was a member of Hampton Lodge, was station master on a railroad down Allison Park.
Oh.
He called and say, hey, I got a group of people that's going up to the cabins. Somebody go down and pick them up and take them up to the cabins. They'd stay there for a week on vacation. You pick them up, take them down, and train them and pick them up, and they'd go back to Pittsburgh.
Oh wow, that's interesting. Wow.
But that's, and Route
So
8
getaway.
used to be a plank road.
Okay.
And on Craighead Road, right where the road goes up to where the school was at, which is now the old age home where they go to the doctor's office, you used to be able to see the planks there.
Mm-hmm.
And well, they just paved over the planks and left them there.
Okay. All right. Wow. Wow. So you've grown up. You've seen a lot. You're privileged to probably the most changes in technology any human being could have ever witnessed. I mean, your lifespan is just perfectly in there with between 35 and now. You've seen so much. So, when was the first time when your family first had a telephone? Or do you?
Oh, we always had a telephone.
Okay, all right.
But we had a party line.
Yeah, tell us about that. How did those work? What was that about?
Well, there were 16 on a party.
Okay.
And I had a piece of paper at home, but I don't know where it's at. It had all the rings for 16.
Okay.
There was 8 on the ring side of the line, 8 on the tip side of the line. And whenever it rang, if somebody wasn't home and you knew them or they was related to you, you'd answer the phone, take a message, write it down, and give it to them whenever they got home.
Okay, and that could have been somebody in a different house.
Right.
Oh wow.
Correct.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And Dorseyville was the same way. When I started working in '53, they still had 16 on a party line.
Oh wow. Yeah.
And their phone bill was less than $1 a month.
Yeah.
Needless to say.
Yeah.
Boy, I don't remember when they did away with 16 parties, but it was in the 70s before they did away with 16 parties over there.
Is that right?
And they went to 2 parties at the most.
Really?
One on the tip side and one on the ring side. So when the ring side rang, tip side didn't hear them. But if you picked them up and they was talking, they was talking. But their phone bill went to almost $5. And boy, all those old women over there was unhappy with the phone company, to say the least.
Probably because they had to pay a lot of money and they couldn't hear the other conversations. But,
Correct.
That's really cool. That's interesting.
Yeah, our first telephone number was 686J.
686J.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then I went to 2780R. And then I went to Hunter 68384. I worked on the crew that cut Hunter to dial in 57.
Mm. And so you mentioned you worked on this crew. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that? I believe I heard you say 53. Did you start working there right after high school?
Correct.
Okay, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I didn't know what I was going to do when I graduated, but the neighbor across the road from us was the motor vehicle superintendent for the phone company. He said, hey, we're always looking for people.
Mm-hmm.
You'll never be out of a job, I can guarantee you that. So I went down and applied, talked to an old German guy, hired me on the spot.
Ah.
That was a Wednesday, I think it was, and the next Monday I started to work.
Okay, and name of the company?
Bell, PA.
Bell, PA.
Right,
Okay.
and then I went to Bell Atlantic,
Okay.
and then I went to Verizon.
All right. Okay. All right. So, what'd you do at the beginning?
I was a cable helper.
Okay.
Splicer go to manhole or go up the pole, and I'd be the guy on top of the manhole and hand them tools. But you had to have 2. You couldn't be one guy in a manhole all by himself.
Mm.
If he was up the pole, I'd hand everything up to him, and then I'd go up the pole, and I'd slip tubes on the wire while he spliced them.
Okay.
And whenever we got done, I'd go down, clean the sleeve, send it up to him. He'd solder the sleeve, and we'd be done for that job. And we'd go somewhere else. We'd cut in terminals. We had old wooden terminals when I started. And there's a big project of doing away with wooden terminals, and we had aluminum terminals in.
Okay. All right.
And I did that. Well, I went into service in 1958, come out in 1960, and I was working at the branch house, which is where all the supplies come from, until 62. In 62, they says, okay, the recession for them was over, you're going back outside. So I went back outside as an installer, and I was an installer for 3 years, I believe it was. And he says, hey, we need somebody in the service center to test cable cuts. Every fifth number on the cable cut you call to make sure it was the right number.
Okay.
And if it was the wrong number, then you started doing some work to clear it, to make sure the cable cut was going right. And I was there for 2 years.
What year are we talking? What you're talking the mid '60s?
Yeah, I went in there in the mid 60s.
Okay.
Well, yeah, 66 I think it was. And I was there to 71. And I have trouble with my ears. Needless to say, I got a hearing aid in this one. Can't hear out of this one.
Okay.
But I had to wear a headset
Okay.
all day.
Ah.
And it was getting to the point where the headset was bothering my ears.
Okay.
So I was thinking, maybe I'll ask her back outside. Of course, my second line boss, he told me, as far as I'm concerned, you're here to stay, because he says, you use your brain and you got the right idea of what's happening. Well, my old boss came in one day, he says, boy, I'm in bad need of a repairman. Told me, you're just the guy I want to talk to. That was a Wednesday. January the 16th was a Monday, and I was back outside, and my second line boss says, don't I have a say-so in this? My first line boss says, nah, I need a repairman bad in Dorseyville, and he knows most of the people out there, so I'm going to take him. So I spent from then until 92, when I retired, as a repairman in Dorseyville and Fox Chapel.
Okay. Very good. Nice.
So I knew most of the people in Fox Chapel, although by now most of them are gone.
Okay.
And we had 3 people out there that was on the board of directors of Bella, PA at the time. And most of them was easy to work with. Some of the other ones was tougher. We had a guy out there that was president of Alcoa. And man, he was tough to get anything done with. And he wouldn't let his wife use the phone. So one day I calls in on my dispatcher, says, hey, I hate to give you this, but you know, the president of Alcoa? Told me, yeah, I even know where he lives. Up on Riding Trail Lane, yep. He says, you're going up there and put a second line in. His wife says, I can't use a phone, so I'm going to have to put a line in for myself. I says, okay. So I goes up there, and he wasn't there, fortunately. She says, where can you put this? I says, any place you want it, because the house was pre-wired. She says, well, I got a jack right here for his phone. Is there any way you can put one there for mine? Told me, yeah, I got a little box about the size of a duplex outlet. I can put it on the wall, and I can put 2 jacks there. Put yours on the top, his on the bottom. She says, do it. I did it. I was fortunate. I had dial toned the network interface out of the garage, hooked it all up, it worked. She says, you're wonderful. I told her, I'm just lucky, that's all. Got in my truck, and I was going to the driveway, and he was getting ready to turn in. Well, he backed up, he waved at me, I made a turn. I guess whenever he went in, there was probably a little screaming, yelling going on.
You didn't like that, huh?
Probably not. We had some Steeler football players lived there.
Okay.
We had one house that had a address of, get to be 86 and you start to lose your mind.
Imagine that.
But anyhow, you had to go in a different road to get to the house.
Okay. Okay.
And the guy from the business office was in the garage one day. He says, "Hey, you know where this place is at?" "Yeah, as a matter of fact, I do." He says, "How do I find it?" I told him how to get there. I says, "And when you get to the garage door, you're there." I don't know if he ever got there, because I didn't see him again. So.
Oh, I'll tell you. I don't know how anybody got around this area without GPS in the past. But,
Well, we didn't have that when I was working.
yeah,
But,
I know, yeah.
but after a while, of course, since I lived close to Dorseyville and spent a lot of time over there delivering eggs and straw and hay and things of the sort, I knew the roads quite well.
Yeah, yeah.
And of course, good old WNUF, you remember them?
Oh yeah, sure, yeah.
Boy, that was money maker for me.
Is that right? Yeah.
They lived over there. They was east of Indianola,
Okay.
back in the hills.
Okay.
They was only half a mile from the end of Northern District, is where I worked. And then we went into Oakmont District, or New Kent. I'd go to work in the morning, and I'd turn on the radio, and I went to see if they was on the air. If they was on the air, fine. If they wasn't, I knew where I was going. I'd go to the garage and get my truck and go to WNUF. But they was off the air a lot.
Oh, is that right? Yeah.
Oh yeah, of course, part of it was Bell's fault, because half a mile from the end of the district, they didn't have as much facilities there. We had 2 miles down the road.
Yeah.
Needless to say.
Yeah, yeah.
In the winter time, Crawford Run Road was closed, so I had to go around to get to them. But he was a character. You remember the green cab?
I'm sorry, I don't. No.
Well, he owned the green cab.
Okay.
The green sheet.
Okay.
He owned the green sheet.
All right. All right. Now, what was the green sheet? Just.
It's still around, the green sheet.
Okay.
You can advertise in it for sale.
Okay.
Wanted,
All right. So.
things of the sort.
Sure. Okay. All right.
It was, but he was another character. But hey, you meet them everywhere.
Yeah, yeah, you do, you do.
Yep.
Well, let me ask you, you mentioned something that I'm interested in, and probably a lot of people don't know about. You said you worked on at least one of the Nike sites, right?
Yeah, one in Dorseyville.
Can you, before you, tell us a little bit about that, but tell folks what those were, because I promise you most people think you're talking about shoes. So what was a Nike site?
The Nike site was a protection ring around the city of Pittsburgh. And I'm not sure how many of them there was, but there was 8 or 10 Nike sites, and they had missiles in them.
Missiles, so.
Right.
This was defense, this was military defense.
Correct.
Okay.
And the missiles in one site, and the control room was in the other site, and it was about 2 to 3 miles separating the two of them.
Okay, all right.
And we had a cable in between the two sites for communications for the Nike site.
All right.
And I don't remember when they put them out of oration. Was that the 70s?
I think so. Yeah, I think that's 70s.
Might be, but we spliced them up. I think the late 80s.
Yeah.
The late 50s. And then the Indians moved in to the one in Dorseyville in the 80s.
You like the Indians? What do you mean by the Indians?
Native Indians.
Okay.
They have it at, and then the ARP group got in the one that's right at the West-Ear border.
Okay.
Was the control room.
All right.
Well, that's where the ARP groups meets now.
Okay. Is that the retired people?
Right.
Oh, okay. Okay. So,
AARP.
AARP. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Very good. All right. Yeah. Okay. So, what did that, I mean? Do you remember when the Nike sites went in? Just as a citizen around here, do you remember those going in?
Well, not right offhand. I don't.
Okay.
Like I say, it had to be the 50s.
Yeah. Right.
Sometime.
Right.
That they all went in, because I know we all had to have clearance to work there.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, I took one afternoon about a week before we started splicing up the cable, and there was four people I think that I had to talk to. A couple of them worked for the phone company, was bosses from the phone company. I don't know who the other two was. I assume they was from the government, but that's just an assumption on my part.
Sure.
When we got done I got a piece of paper saying that I had clearance to work on them. In fact, it was just last summer. I was cleaning out some papers and come across it at home and running through the shredder. I guess I probably should have saved it, given it to you.
Yeah, yeah, maybe.
You could have put it here.
Yes, it would have been nice. It would have been nice though.
But, and then when I went into service in '58, they said, well, I see you already have clearance. Yeah, as a matter of fact, I do. They said, well, you got to have another step of clearance. So we all went to class. Oh boy, there was a bunch of us. But that didn't take long. We was only there a couple hours, I think, because I worked on the Mighty Mite teletype, which worked off of the stratosphere.
Okay.
And at that time, it wasn't in operation yet. We was just testing it.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a hut back at Washington, D.C. And where else did we have one? Well, they had two others, but anyhow, we used to communicate and see how it worked in different types of weather.
Okay.
And we had antennas that we put up, and the planes from David Monmouth would come down and try to shoot them down.
Okay.
They never shot one of ours down.
Is that right?
Nope. They put nicks in them, but they never shot them down.
Okay. And which branch of the service were you in?
I was in communications in the Army.
In the Army, okay.
Right. And when I got called back in, we was in radio communications in the Army.
Okay.
And we repaired radio equipment.
Oh, right. All right.
But I had a good time when I was in Arizona. I spliced a cable up from Fort White Chuka to Yuma Test Station.
Okay.
And I got acquainted with a guy from AT&T that took care of the cable out of Tucson down to Nogales.
Okay.
Which was in Mexico, needless to say. And whenever I was traveling around with our cable, if I seen his truck on the north side of the road, he was north someplace with his mule. If he was on the south side of the road, he was south someplace with his mule. And I had a deuce and a half, so I'd throw the thing in four-wheel drive and start down through the desert.
Oh, yeah?
And when I come across him, I'd spend the night with him.
Oh, yeah?
We'd have dinner together.
Oh, wow.
Then I'd go on my way and he'd go on his way.
Oh, wow. That sounds fantastic.
But hey, it's like an old guy told me, you make do with what you have.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Fantastic. What was I going to say about yes, so that's good. I'm sorry. Why'd you join the service? And what made you join the service at 58?
I got drafted.
Oh, you were drafted. Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
April 1st, 1958.
Oh.
I got drafted, and I was in a communications company with a lot of guys that worked for Western Electric and Bell and AT&T. So we all got along, needless to say. Unfortunately, there's not many of us left. I guess it was, 5 years ago, the guy from New York that I was friends with died. A couple years before that, a couple other them died. So, hey, when you get in your 80s, that's what happens.
Yeah, yeah. About to visit with my mother. She's about to turn 90, so.
Yeah, my sister's 90. She's going to turn 91. But unfortunately, she's in hospice care right now. So, you never know.
No, you don't. My mother's been fortunate. She's at home. But, what about your marriage? How long have you been married?
We've been married since 1960, and I got out of the service on March 31st, and we got married June 25th. She says, why do you want to get married June 25th? Because my birthday is 29th, so I won't forget it. But we dated for 5 years. Of course, I spent 2 years in the service for those 5.
Yeah. That must have been difficult.
Yep. So we've been together for 67 years, you could say.
Okay. How'd you meet?
Roller skating.
Roller skating. Okay.
Yep.
Tell us about that.
Well, we had a coach. After the kids was born and got old enough to go skating, we all went skating together. And we had a coach whenever we went back skating to teach us the new skates, new dances on skates.
Oh, dancing.
We danced on skates.
Wow.
And we thought about it, and I told Jerry, if we could take lessons and we go into competition, we got to buy a white tux for you and a black tux for me. Do you want to do that? She says, no, not really, because that means a lot of traveling. So I told him, whenever this gets like work, we're done, so we're not going to go into competition. But he wanted us to go into competition.
Yeah.
But we skated from when we met up until about 8 years ago, I guess it was. And we'd have still been skating, but the doctor says, you know what? If you fall and get hurt, one of you, the both of you is going to be doing nothing.
Yeah.
Well, we fell one time doing a very complicated skate.
Okay.
Where two of you turned together.
Yeah.
And our skates touched, and we hit the floor. And before I could sit up, our coach was out on the floor taking our skates off. He says, I don't want you two on skates anymore today.
Okay. All right. But you had a long run of skating. So
Oh.
where did you go skating? Where were the places you went skating?
Well, we started at Twin Willows, and then when Heckards sold Twin Willows, we started going down to Carnot, which is top of the hill from Coriopolis.
Okay.
And then unfortunately Carnot closed, so we started going down to Neville Island.
All right.
Of course, now Neville Island is still open, but they don't have dance skating anymore.
Yeah. My kids all played at the ice rink.
Okay.
Yeah. So Neville Island and sounds like skating was a really pretty popular.
Oh, everybody
thing to
went
do.
skating.
Yeah.
Yep.
And dancing and all that type of stuff. Huh?
Yep.
So.
Well, after skating, we ballroom danced for a number of years.
All right.
And unfortunately, most all of them shut down.
Yeah.
During COVID.
Oh yeah. Okay. All right. So but they ran that long though, huh?
Yeah, right.
Oh wow.
Yep.
And where would you do your dancing?
Coriopolis and the Moose down in Saxonburg Boulevard.
Okay. Very good.
And we'd go away someplace and we'd see a dance while we'd go there and see what it was like. We went to Cleveland one time roller skating.
Mm-hmm.
And they did a dance called the Highway.
Okay.
And whenever the guy started playing the organ, there was probably 25 or 30 couples on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
And partway through, he started speeding it up a little bit. Well, a lot of the older couples, they just got off the floor because it was too fast.
Yeah.
Because you had to both turn both ways and other things during a highway dance.
Okay.
When it got to the end, he was going as fast as he could, and we was the only couple left on the floor.
Uh-huh.
We going around, got down there in the end. Jerry says, I had enough. So we stopped. He stopped, everybody clapped, and we went back to regular skating.
Oh, wonderful. Fantastic. That's great. That's wonderful. So you said you had a friend who was I guess you'd call him a conductor on the Harmony line, is that right? Or
No, he was a
driver.
He was a driver.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
His name was Pete Kilner.
Pete Kilner. Okay.
Yep.
And so and you used the Harmony line. What did you use the Harmony line for?
Well, when we go visit other lodges sometimes, or we get down to Pittsburgh to a baseball game, things of the
So
sort.
what would that be like, going down to Pittsburgh for a baseball game, taking the line down there? How would you?
We just all climb on a bus, and he had a place to park it where they parked the buses.
Okay.
Because other buses would come in.
All right.
And he parked it, and we all go in and sit together and have pop and popcorn, and game was over, we'd get back on the bus and come home, and all our vehicles would be parked at the lodge hall.
Okay.
He'd take the bus back, and of course the bus sit up on Route 8, up there right alongside the hearing aid. The hearing aid place is in the garage where the buses used to park,
Okay.
right by the Lands Museum.
All right. Oh yeah, sure, yeah.
Yep.
We're talking about, great. All right. Any other remembrances you'd like to impart to folks about living in McCandless between You know, in the last part of the 20th century.
Well, it's built up a lot since then, but
Yeah.
nope, I had a good time. I enjoyed working.
Yeah, yeah,
For the most part, the people was great.
yeah,
There's always a few you run into that's a bit of a pain, but
yeah.
you just do your job and tell them it's done, I'll see you, and go on your way. And one day I walked up to the lady's house down on Thompson Run Road where the Boy Scout camp used to be, where all the townhouses are at now.
Mm-hmm.
And I walked up there because the snow was knee deep. And I walked up and told her, hey, the trouble's in your phone. I says, I got a new one in the truck, and hers is probably 15 or 20 years old. I said, let me get you a new phone. What color you want? She said, well, it's black. Told her, there's no problem. We got yellow, beige, white. I says, they're not gonna charge anything because they're replacing your phone.
Mm-hmm.
So I walked on, got the phone, walked back up, connected it up, dialed ring back, everything worked. Told her, hey, it's all yours. She says, here, this is yours. There was a bottle in a paper bag, you could just tell.
Ah,
So now, I says, company pays me well to do this. We don't accept anything. She says, you either take this, or when you leave, I'm gonna call them and tell them you made a pass at me. Thank you, Merry Christmas, I'll see you. I went right down to the garage, stood on my boss's desk. He says, I'll bet there's a story goes with this. Certainly is. I told him the story. He says, hang on. He called the district office. Their third line boss says, just keep the bottle. Don't use it. If by time New Year's Eve comes and those guys are getting ready to go home, everybody have a shot and don't worry about it. Never heard another thing about it.
very good. All right. Well, Bill, I appreciate you sitting and talking with me today.
Hey, my pleasure.
And thanks again. People will learn a lot of stuff about McCandless and about the Odd Fellows from you, and really appreciate it. So.
Well, when I was a kid around here, nobody had big schools.
Yeah.
It was all like this building.
Right. Yeah.
But since then, they all consolidated except Hampton High School or Hampton School District. And the reason why Hampton didn't consolidate is the guy that was Secretary of Education lived in Hampton, and he says, and I know darn well these consolidated schools are going to be a problem, and he's right.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think Hampton has avowed itself well over the years. It's one of the best schools in the country. So.
Yeah, it is. It's fortunate.
Yeah.
Of course, it's Hampton School is a lot like Hampton Lodge. There's a few people put a lot of effort into it and keep it going and make it what it is.
Yeah, well, that's what keeps things going. Yeah.
Yep.
But we appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Hey, my pleasure.
All right, Phil. Thank you.